much. Thank you, Chair. So the title of my paper is about interconnection between higher education and employability in the small island of Mauritius. Have you heard about Mauritius, those who are here? Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so that's the outline of my presentation. So I'll begin with an introduction and then the aims of the study, having an overview of the higher education landscape in Mauritius. And then I have a short, brief literature review about the link between higher education and employability. And then the methodology being used for the study, and then the findings and analysis, and the concluding remarks. Now, I think since yesterday we have heard about this link between higher education and employability, and how higher education landscape have been influenced. I think this morning also we have heard about the globalization process and how it has led, in fact, to some important effects on labor markets. And we have also seen how higher education is also critical in building that human capital and is also an indispensable factor of development. Now, Mauritius cannot be isolated from this process of globalization. Now, in Mauritius, the tertiary education is one of the most important component of the developmental model, since we don't have any natural resources. So we are just having the human resources who are the most bankable resource that the island possesses. Now, the main aim of the paper is to provide an overview of the higher education landscape in Mauritius, and then just like I have already told you about the interconnection between higher education and employment, and I will be focusing mainly about the experiences of the University of Mauritius graduates in 2010. Now, I'll just give you a brief introduction about Mauritius. Now, it's an island located in the Indian Ocean, made up of approximately 1.3 million of inhabitants. It's mainly multi-ethnic society made up of Muslim, Hindu, Christians, and Chinese. And it's also been, in fact, we were mainly based agriculturally based economy, and then we have moved to the diversified economy with growing industrial, financial, tourist, and ICT sectors. Now, education is, the system is largely based on British system, because before we had, before our independence, in fact, there were the French and then the British people who came. So the education, we can see that in fact, primary and secondary education are free in Mauritius. And we could also see how Mauritius has witnessed a diversified system composed of both public, private, regional, and overseas institutions. Now, Mauritius produces around 3,000 to 4,000 graduates annually. And in 2010 is the first time that we have got a Ministry of Tertiary Education, Science, Research, and Technology. With a view, these are the main aims that you will see on the slide, transforming Mauritius into a center of excellence in the higher education sector. We aim also having the knowledge hub in the African region, and also increasing access to higher education so that we could just have at least one graduate per family by 2015. Now, when we go to the brief literature review about the higher education and employability, we have seen, just like I've told you since yesterday, we have seen that it depends about the availability and popularity are also of courses being shaped by the market, and how parents and students also have a preference for higher education, so that it makes young people employable. Now, you have some people like Phil in 2000 and 2007, like Machin and McNally. So how employability is seen and linked with all the rapid changes associated with the globalization process, and how higher education is important for the society, for the individuals, and also in terms of employability. We have also NIA and OECD in 2004, where we have seen how the world of the professional education being influenced by globalization and the market, and how there has been the rise of the knowledge-based economy. Now, in Mauritius, we have the Tertiary Education Commission, which you can see at the TEC, who has conducted various tracer studies in 1996, 2008, and 2011 about that link about higher education and employability. Now, the methodology being used for this study is mainly concerned with the primary and the secondary data, but I have, in fact, I have used mostly the quantitative research, which was privileged. Now, the targeted sample was 350 students from different faculties, like the Faculty of Agriculture, Engineering, Law and Management, Science, and Social Studies and Humanities. And they had graduated in 2010 at the University of Mauritius. But out of these 350 students, only 250 students responded positively. Now, a survey was conducted, and I have made use of the questionnaire, and they were contacted by emails, telephone, even Facebook also, and some of them were sent by post. Now, the findings and analysis, in fact, I have divided the paper into 5 themes. The first one concerned the profile of the respondent. So they were made up of males and females, aged between 26 to 32 years. And the economic status is about 85% were working. And you will find on the slide that 7% out of it were working part-time, and they were seeking full-time work, whereas 3% were working part-time but not seeking full-time job since they were pursuing their postgraduate studies. Now, you will find in the second point where 15% were not working and 12% were undertaking further full-time studies, either locally or overseas. And 3% of the females got married between 2010 and 2011. So due to family commitments, they will seek full-time work either this year or as from next year. Now, the next theme is about the graduates' employment and work. So the time taken to find employment was within 1 year of graduation. So we could see how engineering, management, and social sciences had greater demand as compared to other. And the reasons also explaining the gap between the graduation and the first employment is about lack of vacancy, irrelevant post to their fields of study, lack of work experience, pursuing further studies. Also, some of them, just like the female, they went on maternity leave and had some family commitments. And then the time lag between the application and the interviews. Then we just go to the current employment. So in this diagram, you will find that teaching was the greatest source of employment. So you will find 25%. And then we have some other like the administration, banking, etc. So this is where they made up about the source of employment. Now, the private sector also was the biggest provider of employment. So we could see from the different, that is, from the interviews. And graduates in self-employment stood at 1% because some of them did not want to be self-employed due to lack of capital and also confidence to start their own business. Now, the next theme is about the graduates' perception of their program of studies. So overall, they were satisfied, and they agreed that the courses at the university were relevant to the world of work over time. And 70% found that their courses are in line with the employees' needs, and 10% were less satisfied with regard to the contribution of the UM courses to improve like problem-solving skills and enhancing team spirit. Then the last theme, which is much more about the mismatch and the underemployment. So we could find that 70% employed in a job requiring at least a degree, and 30% underemployed as the job required less than a degree. And some of them were planning also to move to another job. And also underemployment affected those in the field of agriculture, management, etc. Now some concluding remarks. So this study provided some reflections about the relationships between higher education and employment in Mauritius. As we can see, we are moving in the global knowledge economy, and it's very important to have all these higher education institutions. And in Mauritius, the government of Mauritius is making lots of efforts to raise that tertiary enrollment ratio so that Mauritius could be promoted as the knowledge hub in the African region. However, we must say that more skilled and qualified professionals would be required in the future so that we could sustain and support the traditional as well as new emerging sectors. Thank you very much.